welcome to Movie Reception Show. I'm Fariba, and I know that I'm very late with the latest episode of Andor. Let's just say it's been a bit of a very busy week and a half that I've had. That recently speaking, the last two Andor videos I have, or last three Andor videos I've released the reaction videos pretty late in the week. It's just because it's just been really busy. I've been following She-Hulk, I've been following House of Dragon, and both shows had just recently concluded, and it's just really hard to just kind of keep everything in check, especially when you have so many shows as big as they are running. And because of that, I've been kind of a bit slow in terms of trying to roll in the Andor content. But with House of Dragon having ended last week, as well as She-Hulk just about a week and a half ago, we should be okay moving forward to catching up with Andor and just a much more timely pace. So after this video, the following episode that's going to come out later this week, I will hopefully have it out just in time, probably perhaps later in the day after the episode drops, so that way I'm not falling behind like I have in the last few weeks. But yeah, so today we're going to do a reaction video for Andor episode 8, I believe. And from the last episode, we recall that Andor had been arrested in this, place called, I can't remember, it was like Nysa or Nibisi or something like that. It's been a while since I've watched the episode, but yeah, it's been, he has been arrested. He's been charged for 6 years for, apparently doing things that, I don't know. He got charged with some pretty serious crimes, and because of that, he's now being jailed for 6 years. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here. Whether I'm going to assume that he's not going to carry all 6 of those 6 years of those terms, or perhaps somebody's going to come in and kind of clear them off, or considering that he is kind of being hunted down by, in a sense, some of the members of the alliance, the Rebel Alliance, that I would assume that he's not off the hook in any sense of where he is right now in this situation. And of course, in that last episode, we did get a glimpse of K2SO, or at least the droid that he, originated from. We did get to see that at the end of this episode, or that episode, and yeah, it was definitely giving us a lot more of the idea of what was happening in the aftermath of that heist that taken place the episode before that. And now we're definitely seeing more of just the nuance and just the everyday life that we're seeing more and more in this show, and just understanding where everyone is, and like kind of how the things are leading up to like the Rebel Alliance or Genesis, and essentially just the origins for Cassian himself, and how everything's just connected in sort of this whole wide lore of Star Wars that we've seen, especially during this time where they have this war with the Empire. So yeah, without further ado, let's watch episode 8 of Andor. But he's just a tourist though.
What happened to Lieutenant Bluff?
I lost the questions. Ferrex had been reviewing the incident and was planning on calling.
Interesting. I guess it's our first time seeing an Imperial prison. Oh. Oh!
I'm ready. Good luck, team.
Jeez.
Gray cloak, green, dark boots.
I didn't get a good look.
I heard you spoke.
Oh.
I was a good deputy inspector.
That was very good. I didn't deserve what happened.
I wish you luck. I'm running late.
It's clear you need Andor in order to find his partner.
Men, each table. My name is Q. Narkina, I'm the 5-2D unit manager.
Oh my god, that's Andy
The
Serkis.
49 men in this room answer to me. Name.
Keith.
Keep in mind now. Off program! Back to
Oh
work!
wow.
Listen up. It's a 12-hour shift.
Dang. That looks like a nightmare.
Not for me.
No.
Your father's looking for you.
You're drinking squeaks.
No, I've lost my taste for it.
It's disgusting.
But that's the point.
It does look disgusting.
I should find out. Nice to see you again.
Oh my god, this he's in shock. What is he doing? Who is he communicating to?
What is public order?
It's an awfully big focus, isn't it?
The Emperor's primary charge is to protect us, is it not? That's what the PORD legislation would do.
How much protection is enough?
We know what to.
Water, nightlight, toilet flips down, got a plate, spoon, and shaver.
And food?
The tune. You can get as much as you want. If you like us healthy and fueled. Don't worry, you'll learn to eat it.
Oh my.
Tough way to start. Getting fried.
Never heard of it. Told you.
The Public Order Decree. The resentences.
I'm sorry.
All the rebel activities.
It's rebel nonsense. I don't know anything about it.
He slaughtered a garrison.
That's not what he said.
Burned it down.
My dude. Oh. 30 ships later?
Tighten up!
Oh my god, they're about to have a prison shower, aren't they? Oh, jeez. Oh my god. That's it?
I'll kill you.
Did she fall?
She has been in the now.
Apparently I'm throwing a party.
The boys had to carry you back here.
Ooh, it travels fast. She fell.
So the rebellion can sneak in and take them by surprise.
She's a rebel.
Yeah, she is.
I should be coming by more often.
Is that your mother?
Cassian.
You really don't know where he is?
This is all we have right now. What's the alternative? Haven't we been apart long enough?
It's not about us.
After what we've been through.
You think the Empire stops to catch its breath?
Won't.
She could point us in the right direction.
She's asking us.
She knows more than we do. So much more. She might have a lead.
More likely it's the ISB working her radio.
You're guessing.
And you're slipping.
We're shutting down Ferrex. The code, the frequency, all of it. I'm thinking clearly and you're not. Tell me to shut it down.
Why is he standing there? Oh my. What is he doing? Whoa, okay.
Gary's son of old Donnie. Is that you?
Hey.
Tell me if it was.
Saw Gerrera.
Somebody's sitting on some dosh.
Well, if that someone is you, I'm hoping you'll put it to good use.
Would I be out here in the cold if I had just paged off? Tired of playing behind the scenes with them.
Why don't you try to fighting with people who agree with you?
You come all this way to scold me. What did you bring me some talk? The Partisan Alliance? Sectorists, human cultists, galaxy petitionists. They're lost. All of them lost. Lost. What are you?
I'm a coward.
Okay.
I'm a man who's terrified the Empire's power will grow beyond the point where we can do anything.
Quickly.
You two, with me. Now!
Oh my god, can't believe you're pulling an act. Alright, so that was the 8th episode of Andor, which means we're about 2/3 into the series now. And yes, this was definitely a much slower episode because it was just kind of giving more of the background of what is just kind of this ordinary life that most citizens and even just Imperial officers have to deal with. So in this case, we do see basically Cassian's life right after being, charged and being sent to a prison. And in this case, it does seem as if he has been sent to a prison facility or Narkina 5, where it's essentially where it's sort of a prison where they actually do more sort of slave work in a sense. Like they are a bit more productive in trying to get their things done, but in a very gruesome and crucial and very just like it's just very tiring way of doing it. Like we saw how much pressure there is just to complete the assignment to a point where they are competing to sort of be the best and be the most productive team. And if you are the most productive team, then you are rewarded more for your service, whether it be getting better food, better tasting food. And if you don't, then you don't really get the like the incentives that come with all that hard work. And it seems really gruesome the way that they have to work. They have to work really fast. They have to do, they have to be really precise and just we're seeing kind of this whole lifestyle we never really seen before, which is sort of this prison lifestyle, and this kind of gives us a bit more of that perspective and just how they would operate in a more systematic way. So that was just a bit of a new sense of lifestyle that we never really seen before, and now I guess you can say we now know how prison system works in the Star Wars universe, because we never really got that before. So that was a really interesting thing. I still wonder what this would mean in terms of Cassian's story. Like, is this giving him more of a perspective of what these prisoners are dealing with and why the Rebel Alliance is kind of essentially just their key to having some hope left? Get it? A new hope. But I wonder if that is a sense of suggesting that this is their way of finding some hope in terms of what's going on, that despite sort of this hardship that they're feeling right now, that the fact that they are in a prison camp where they're going through the most gruesome work, that there could be a sense of hope for them where if the Rebel Alliance has really gained momentum, then they might be able to get through even further into the prison. And I wonder if that's what happened in this camp, where one of the prisoners were like, you know what, I don't think, maybe they lost hope and therefore decide to, risk their life and basically, die on the spot. I wonder if that's what's going on in this scene. I wonder if this is kind of giving Cassian a bit more perspective of what's going on, why the whole situation with Arhenia, the heist that happened there is very crucial, why people are wanting to know what happened and what the progress is in terms of the Rebel Alliance. And I think that that's maybe one of the reasons why we have this prison sequence, is to sort of show where Cassian's seeing more of that viewpoint that he's never really looked in before. Like, he's always been about himself, his own greed, kind of just his own self-interest of things and what he wants to do. And here it's like, well, you don't really have that, right? Yes, you do have to work for yourself, and you have to think about the fact that, well, he's going to be in prison for like 6 years, and therefore he needs to complete that sentence, whether it be completing everything that he can in terms of his workload, or working with the team and making sure that he can push them to get their work in as fast and efficient as possible. But in this case, because he's working with other people, he is talking to other people, this means that he's seeing a world where it's not just him, but it's everyone who's dealing with the same consequences, same hardship, the struggles, especially in this case. Like, he even says, like, he wasn't really accused of anything, although, again, they don't really know who he really is as of this moment. They think that he's just someone else and just gave these charges on the spot, and then that's just about it, right? So I wonder where this is gonna end up leading towards. I wonder if this is sort of giving him a bit of the selflessness, where maybe for once he needs to not think about himself, but like see others' viewpoints, what they're struggling with, and why the Rebel Alliance is in a sense sort of their hope that maybe things will change. And I think that maybe that might be leading up to something. I'm not exactly sure, but that's the best way I can really explain as to why they're having this whole sequence in the prison, for that reason. And maybe that's what they're doing, right? So we'll see more of where that whole sequence will be leading up to. We do see Mon Mothma again, in a sense of trying to, fund the Rebel Alliance, trying to push again their cause, and we do see more aspects of her. Again, nothing too much going on in terms of her story, but we are still again seeing where she is still struggling to get the support, trying to figure out a way to, play around with her money, and just to make sure that the Empire does not become suspicious of her, especially because she is already being a suspect in a sense where she is sort of, like she's not on their good side, where now they're keeping a close eye on her. So I wonder again, I don't know where that's going to lead up to, but again, we haven't seen the unnamed ally yet, which I'm assuming it may be Leia, it could be Organa, we don't know yet, but not too much going on there as well. We do see more Bix this time around. Like, we haven't really seen her much, but we definitely do see kind of where she's just really trying to get through life. But now that Marva has been, become so obsessed with the rebellion, and even to the point of having fallen, we see how things are changing up for her, how things are becoming a bit more desperate. And because of her one act where she did try to call out Luthen, it really put her in a really, really hard position. Now we don't know what's going to end up happening there with the whole interview, the whole interrogation scene with her and the Imperial officer. It's going to be interesting where that would go and lead up to. More of these stories converging now, especially with especially now that Lines is now becoming more involved with the case that Cyril Khan was involved with. Again, we haven't really seen much of Cyril yet, aside from the fact that he does provide a bit more of the information, the description of what happened during the whole failure at Ferrix. And again, I don't know where his story's gonna go yet, but like, it definitely does seem like this was an episode where things are a bit more ambiguous than they were before, and it might be just because it's a bit more of a slower show. We haven't really seen how the elements, the situations that have happened so far is going to lead up to something as of yet. Again, we're seeing more of these characters kind of just develop on their own self. Like, in this case, I think that we definitely see more of Biggs in terms of her characterization and just what she's doing, how she's involved, and why she has a much more of a bigger role that she has than we saw before. And I think that we start to see more and more of these key players trying to develop. And it's really interesting way of how the filmmakers have really been trying to show that. Because yes, this is a show about Cassian, but in some sense, because all these people, all these players are connected to him in some way or some form, that we're seeing each of these supporting characters having their own story as well. And yes, I definitely feel like this was a much slower episode because a lot of things were happening. Things were a bit more ambiguous. I hope that this was leading up to something, especially now that we are getting to the last 3 episodes. And I can only hope that the last 3 episodes will really lead to kind of this big momentous, this climax, this culmination of where all the story would lead up to in terms of this, just as the growth, right? And I think for the main part is this show is really not just about Cassian's story, but essentially the genesis of the Rebel Alliance. We've been hearing about it, we keep seeing about this. The Rebel Alliance hasn't really kind of flourished into its peak as of yet, just because there's a lot of build up that they really need to get. They need to have the funding, they need to have the power, they really need to have the support. And we're seeing more of that sort of unfolding here in each and every episode. And here it's like, okay, now that they finally got the, you know, the attention of the Empire, now they really need to show themselves as a threat. And I don't know where that's going to lead up to, how it's going to build up to that moment. But we do see a very, very amazing appearance from Saw Gerrera. Saw's appearance in this episode, we definitely saw a bit more of the nuance of the Rebel Alliance that we never seen before, and that is that there are some who we do have some of the more separatist groups that are a bit more radical, whereas we have some more modern ones, like probably the one that Luthen is or Saw Gerrera is. There's definitely a lot more complexities in terms of just what's going on behind the scenes, and now we're seeing a bit more of that exposure where, okay, well, it looks like the Rebel Alliance wasn't just this one whole coalition, right? There was different groups, but each group had their differences, right? So it's kind of like looking at Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. with their different, you know, perspectives and how their philosophies are and how they approach to meet up the same goal, but like in the ways that they did it were very different, right? And we're seeing a bit more of that kind of this conflict kind of show up in this episode. And again, this is a show that is really, really giving us the details of the Rebel Alliance and how they became this huge entity that eventually went up against the Empire later on, right? And again, I don't know how these stories will lead up to, how these stories will converge. But again, we see a bit more of this slower episode where we see more of this character development, more of where each of the character stories would lead up to and how they build and how they are built. And hopefully by the time we get to the next episode, we'll see more of just the culmination of where their arcs are going to start leading up to, especially now that we only have 3 episodes left of the series. But yeah, this was definitely this was definitely a slower episode. It's not my favorite just because there wasn't really a lot going on. It didn't give us a lot of answers, but there were a lot of interesting aspects in terms of like what was going on with some characters, especially the appearance prison sequence. I wonder where that's going to lead up to. And also now that Bix is arrested, like what would that mean? Like how will this affect her? How will it affect Andor? How will it affect everybody in basically this whole galaxy, right? But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this episode. I mean, it's definitely, I would say this is one of my least favorite episodes, but in the sense that considering this is a very good show in general, that's not totally a bad thing. Because I mean, I could tell you like far more worse episodes that have happened in the Star Wars universe than this one. I think that even if this was the least favorite of mine, it still does lead up to a lot of things. It does give you a lot of details. It does give you a lot of character development. And hopefully from here on, we start to see more of the final act of where the season will lead up to, especially in terms of whether it be Cassian's story or the Rebel Alliance. There's a lot going on, and I hope to see. And again, I'm going to be very intrigued. I'm going to keep my attention to this show because, again, I feel like it does have a lot going on it has a lot of potential in terms of the storytelling, because this is a story, not just something that is giving fan service. And even if it is a bit of a slow run, I can only imagine that there's going to be some sort of satisfaction in terms of where this story will end, that there's going to be it's going to end in some good notes somehow, especially because we are going to have a second season, and how it's going to end with everything that's happened so far. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this episode. I'm now finally caught up with Andor. What do you think? Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? Did you feel like this was definitely one of the more slower ones where we didn't really get to see much going on? Which stories have really intrigued you so far? What do you think everything that's happened from here on out is going to lead up to? What will this mean for the last 3 episodes that we do have coming up? And yeah, are you really excited to see how things are really just starting to kind of, merge into one, and eventually, hopefully, things will get to there'll be a good conclusion that we'll probably have by the end of the season. Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.